Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing while also documenting their own personal investing journeys are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode. Today we had an awesome episode. We interviewed Terry Harris. He's a former professional basketball player. He was in the NBA's G League for a while, and now he is a real estate investor, developer, specializing in short-term and also long-term rentals. Awesome dude. We had a fun time.
We really did. I feel like we always connect with people who are in like the sports, who have either come from sports or just related to sports. As we've interviewed a lot of like former Division I athletes. Terry did it professionally. He played Division I basketball, played in the G League, played overseas. His older brother is like one of the superstars in the NBA, Tobias Harris, if anybody knows. He actually plays for the Sixers. But so Terry was just like super knowledgeable, and you could tell that he took like the dedication and the work ethic from his basketball game right into real estate. He is the perfect story for anybody that is listening to the podcast that is like, I'm not making a ton of money right now, I'm making an okay salary. How do I turn that salary into millions? And Terry literally is doing that. Like, he started off with a $35,000 a year salary in the G League, and not many people know that's kind of the average. Like, that's what G League dudes make. Like, Ryan Pineda was a former minor league baseball player. He talks about how he had this low salary playing in the minor league baseball, and like he kind of fell in love with real estate when he was able to, this is back to Terry, he was able to turn his $35,000 a year salary and triple it on buying a home, renovating it, living in it, like kind of a live-in flip, and then selling it for like $100,000 in profit. And then he got bit by the bug, and now he's doing development. He's doing ground up development and then putting those properties on Airbnb. And he has a partner in the LA area and also Joshua Tree where he's able to do this. But you can just tell, man, like this guy was like, I wanted to do wholesaling, I dove into wholesaling. I wanted to do flipping, I dove into flipping. And, he was able to scale his wholesaling business and parlay it into development. I just had a great time. You could tell that like I was talking the whole time because I love hoops, and I really respect people that are in that game. And Terry was a concise breath of fresh air. So it was really cool to talk to him today.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of people's favorite episodes that we've done to date.
Yeah, and take notes because he literally talks like specifics about numbers and stuff, which was, sometimes our episodes are more mindset, sometimes they're more detailed. And like this one is like definitely like a strategy episode.
Couldn't agree more. So I think without further ado, we bring in Terry.
Let's do it.
When you have investment properties and tenants, you need a good system in place for collecting rent to make it easy as possible. And RentRedi can help you with everything. When you sign up for RentRedi, you can start adding your properties, inviting tenants, and creating charges. You can even set up automatic rent reminders and create auto late fees as well. For tenants, they can pay via ACH, card, or even cash using RentRedi's web and mobile apps. They can also use an automatic payment setup and sign up for rent reporting so they get rewarded for paying rent on time. RentRedi saves you time and hassle by automating rent collection, and you can manage everything from one dashboard. For our Weekly Juice listeners, RentRedi's given us a special 50% off for any RentRedi plan using our code WeeklyJuice at rentredi.com. That's RentRedi.com using the code WeeklyJuice. That's WeeklyJuice to save 50% off any RentRedi plan. Terry, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on the show, man. As we mentioned pre-recording, we have some connections. We've been following you for a while. You did an amazing podcast with Rich Summers. I know you have a couple more coming out, but we're thrilled to have the opportunity to have you on the show, man.
I appreciate you guys having me. Always a pleasure. Got to see your content recently, and just a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it means a lot. So let's start from the beginning. Maybe like pre-real estate investing. I know that's a whole new kind of world now, but take us through your journey to how you got into real estate in the beginning. What did you do before, and how'd you get there?
Right. So I started off and played professional basketball in the NBA G League. I signed with Philadelphia 76ers, got waived down, and immediately went to the Delaware Blue Coats, which was the minor league team for the Philadelphia 76ers. Throughout my journey in the G League, my G League season was 6 months. And during those 6 months, I had a salary of $35,000. So for me, it was always, going to games, to practices. I was always wondering, how am I going to get paid these next 6 months out of the year? Some guys sometimes guys get call ups, they get 10-day contracts, and some guys go overseas and do the remainder of the duration of the year and go to another country and play. But really nothing was guaranteed for me. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I wanted to be in control of something that I knew that was going to be an income producer for me and something that gave me financial stability. And, I remember listening to the radio one day, driving the car, and I heard an ad on the radio saying, come to this event, learn how to invest in real estate. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I do a little research on it, and, I just seen some mixed reviews. So I was like, you know what, let me just attack this thing. Let me go find a book on real estate. And then I picked up Brandon Turner's, the book on rental property investing, the Blue Book. And throughout reading that book, what I love so much about that book, it triggered the mindset of understanding financial freedom, cash flow. And it really made me able to understand real estate investing, and for a way that somebody who never, thought about buying a home could go and purchase a property. So, through that first year in the G League, I made a couple offers on single family houses, got pre-approved, and I was able to use what I saved up from the G League to go purchase my first home.
Yeah, so I was doing some background research on you, and I realized that, that first home really was able to springboard you, right? You bought the home 3% down because you were able to live in it, and then you were able to sell it for like I believe it was 3 times your salary for a profit. So you're talking over $100,000. I'm curious, is that when you realized like, okay, now this is something that's going to be able to build wealth long-term for you? Like, was that the moment you're like, all right, damn, I got to go after this even harder?
For sure, because I was like, at that time, I'm still in the gym twice a day. I'm watching film, and then some of the days I'm scraping wallpaper off the house. So it's like I'm over here saying like, man, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out in this avenue, and I was able to do 3x my G League salary, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I always considered, what happens if I'm all in on real estate? What happens if I'm all in this avenue? What can I do? I already knew inside like what could happen, but that was really game changing. I think the most valuable thing that I really learned from that is, I can go and make money through my own efforts. Because all I ever knew growing up, through college and my first year playing professional, was I have to get a job. I have to be employed by somebody in order for me to, make money financially.
Got it. I think I want to talk about the springboarding of your real estate journey, but first, I actually do have a couple of questions about the G League, because it just so happens that a Netflix, I think it was on Netflix or maybe Amazon Prime, there's a documentary that recently came out, like talking about the G League and like what a grind it is, right? And I think Gabe York's in it, and Denzel Valentine, and some guys who were like maybe higher profile in college that got drafted and went down to the G League. I think some of the guys played when it was D League too. But I'm curious about your mindset and how you were able to shift it towards real estate. And the reason why I'm asking the question is because I know that nothing is guaranteed in that league. Like, everyone is fighting for every last dollar spot. They're trying to make it. It would seem to me like you have to be 100% all in on that. Was there a time period where you were like, okay, I got to make basketball equal, or it's going to fade into the second place for you in terms of your time? And I'm curious what that was like, because I'm sure that hoops was your identity. You don't make it to the G League without being extremely good, and then also having dedicated most of your life to it.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So for me, it's like first year out of college. So for college, it was like, I try to work out twice a day, practice, and then of course you got 3 to 4 classes and, exams here and there. So when I got to the G League, it was like, you still get your 2 workouts a day, you get film in, game day would be a busy day, but some days would be like, there's a lot of leisure time. So it's not your typical, playing in the G League is not your typical 9 to 5. You're not spending 8 hours in the gym. Maybe travel days can be really extensive or driving the game, but there's a lot of times where I had time to read, I had time to listen to podcasts, I had time to connect with other individuals and grow from there. And for me, though, I am a strong believer, in being 100% in on something, not trying to be 100% in on 3 different things. So what kind of made that process easier was I started investing right when COVID had happened. So when COVID happened, the whole, my gym was shut down. The G League got shut down. And really, my house just closed. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to be up here every day, doing what I can do. So it made COVID a little bit fun for me. And it gave me the ability to be 100% in on real estate for a period.
That's cool.
It's crazy. It's like it kind of made you pivot in a way too. So
yeah. Well, it's an interesting one. You don't think about it in terms of like the NBA, but like a lot of people, their jobs were shut down and frozen for a while too. And you guys too, same with the G League. So one thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned Brandon Turner's book, The Blue Book. That was our first book too. There was another one called Chad Carson's, Investing in Real Estate.
Retire Early with Real Estate.
There you go.
Yeah.
Retire Early with Real Estate. So that was our other one. But for the one that had the biggest impact on me was The Blue Book. And I had that literally in my car, run around. Like, it was like my Bible, dude. Anytime I needed it, I would just tab through it. I had tabs, highlights, and like just to refer back to, because it was gold. There's so much in there. And then they came out, the yellow book was even more like how to manage tenants, I think it was. So
managing rental properties.
Yeah. So I had these things back left and right. And it's just funny. Like, we're on 2 different spectrums, all different walks of life here, right? We just all hone in on that same book to pivot you into real estate investing. So it's funny that started us out too. So I want to talk about that first deal. Corey mentioned that you 3x'd it or 3x'd your salary on it. Can you talk to like the process of going through and getting that under contract, and then how you ran the numbers, and then, actually how the numbers netted out to help springboard you to the next level?
Sure. Yes. So I was, at the time, anytime we were back home or I was touring homes with realtors, and I didn't, I was just like, I was still learning, I was still reading, but I just wanted to tour houses. And I remember going to one of the houses, and one of the realtors was saying, well, so what are you going to do? You're going to put 20%, 10%, or 3% down? And I was like, wait, you could do 3% down? And he said, yeah, FHA, first time home buyer, you can do it once a year and you can put 3% down. And then I was doing the math. I was like, oh, wow. So I can technically afford up to around $300,000 home if really like what the liquidity and capital I have. So I remember there was one property, and I would utilize a lot of resources in Delaware as well, like a lot of locals. So I would ask a lot of locals, like, hey, what do you think about this area? And some would be honest with you, they'd be like, yeah, stay away from that area. You don't want to do anything out there. And then when they tell me, hey, that's a good area, then I knew, like, okay, this is maybe something I can work into. So we got pre-approved. I was able to see what I was able to get with my G League salary. And once I knew what I was pre-approved for, I knew what I can purchase. And there was a property on the market. It sat on the market for a bit. They were always lowering the price. And I remember we came in and offered like 160, and then we countered back, and we agreed on $170,000. Now, during their first sale, you have contingencies. You have an appraisal contingency, inspection contingency, and throughout those 2 contingencies, during the inspection contingency specifically, there was a lot of safety hazards and things wrong with the house. It was an older home, so I remember we asked the owner to either fix the issues of the home or credit us $15,000. I remember him countering us back at $5,000, and we met in the middle at $10,000. So I went into the closing table with a $6,000 cashier's check, and I was able to leave with the keys and a $10,000 check to go fix up the house. So I was like, walking out of there, I was like, I just made some money to go and fix this house. I just made some money to buy this house, essentially. So my plan was obviously to kind of do a BRRRR strategy. I kind of got into it after reading the book on the rental property investing. It was like I wanted to get into it for financial freedom to make that passive income. So I was going to do it and make a rental. So I put in the $10,000 for the seller credits that we have. Then I had about $10,000 saved up, and then I used about $10,000 in credit card debt. And altogether, it was about a $30,000 rehab. So 107D plus 30, I was all in 200 grand. And a year later-ish, I was able to sell it for $320,000.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. And then you're thinking like, okay, I made the money. I made $100,000, which is, by the way, taxed less than your W-2's tax, right? So you're even making more, which is like, I know that like you get a 10-day contract, you're basically getting $100,000, right? So it's almost like you got that 10-day, even if you didn't, right? So but you got this bug. That's what I want to talk about. You got bit by the bug, and then you're like, okay, now I can make this my thing. I'm curious because now, for people that don't know, like you're developing units. The number I have here, I'm not sure if it's accurate, but like up to 7 units between Joshua Tree and LA. It might even be further or along since I last did some research on you, but that's a long way in the last few years. So like, what happened between that first property and then the next couple moves that you made to allow yourself to springboard?
So even before that property sold, COVID had happened. I fixed it up. I got a tenant in there, and then I went out to Los Angeles. That's where I do all my basketball training. And LA is expensive. I'm still have this little G League salary. I'm collecting a little bit of money throughout the Delaware house being rented. And I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how I can still make some money out here because I don't know what's happening with COVID in basketball. So I remember just listening to Thatch on Instagram, and he was talking about wholesaling. You could do it with no money, no credit. And I'm like, all right, well, I know real estate. I know the game a little bit. Let me get into wholesaling. And around 3-4 months, I just was grinded. So I used to have a workout at 8 a.m. and I used to go to Whole Foods, and I bought a list for like $200 of vacant, high equity homeowners in the area that I was working out. And every day I had 3 highlighters, and I would highlight it: green if they answered and was a lead, yellow if they didn't answer, red if it was a hard no. And every day my goal was to call 60 to 100 people, hand dialing them. And in 3 months, I was able to get my first wholesale deal. And, after I made about $5,000 on my first wholesale deal. And then after that, I was able to, scale that business up, get dialers, get some cold callers, use texting systems, use ringless voice messages. And I was able to scale up my wholesaling business of 3 to 4 deals a month. And this allowed me to not just learn how to wholesale, but this would learn how to source good deals. Because I'm giving deals to investors. Now I'm learning what investors are really buying properties for, what investors are doing. So I'm watching these investors, I'm watching them buy, I'm seeing what they're doing cash flow, I'm seeing what they're doing in developing. And I know that when it comes to my time to have this capital or to raise this capital, that I can do exactly what they're doing. So I do that to get some active income. And then I stumble on Joshua Tree, California. And I buy a house in Joshua Tree, California for about $230,000. I sell the house in Delaware, liquidate a little bit, and then I put about $65,000 of renovation to that. And this is like a bit above a step of my Delaware rehab. It's like more electrical work, HVAC work, a lot of landscaping work, adding a hot tub. So it was a bit more of a rehab. And I was all in about 305, and I ended up selling that home about a year and a half later for $420,000. And good little flip. And then it was making $6,000 a month on Airbnb. My monthly payment at the time was $1,600 a month. So I'm like, ooh, a couple of these wouldn't be so bad either, if I can get these, So that was good as well. And then I did a couple more flips out there. And then as I was wholesaling and I made some money off the flips of the properties, I bought 2 lots, two vacant lots. And the reason why I bought 2 vacant lots in Joshua Tree, because my homes were about 1980 homes, track homes, nothing really special about them, but they were doing $6,000 a month. And when I looked on AirDNA data, these new construction properties were doing close to $15,000 a month. And as I'm wholesaling land to investors. I'm asking developers, as I'm wholesaling the land to them, well, what are you going to do with this land? How much is it going to cost you to build this property? And some of them were building these homes for $400,000. So I'm like, I'm all in on my homes, 320-ish. You're all in $400,000. You're making $15,000 a month. I'm making $3,000 a month. And on top of that, the equity spread between your 400 grand, it probably worth at least 750. You have about $350,000 of equity at least. I'm like, I need to do what you're doing. And that's what led me to go buy some land and, to start developing. And then as I started developing, I really I found that niche in real estate that I fell in love with. There's just so many different niches in real estate. And I recommend almost everybody, stay in real estate for a little bit, but you'll find that niche, whether it be management, buying a hold, wholesaling, developing. There's just an array. We all know there's just so many. And developing was like, wow, to work with the architect to create a vision, to see it come to life, hit the piece of paper, hit some renderings, and go form and be this whatever you imagined it to be, was kind of like gold for me. It was just super exciting. And I remember I was just, to this day, I'm just so when I was submitting plans to the city, I was just so happy to go bring some plans to the city and see this process unfold.
To bring that to life is really exciting. I love the design aspect because we have Airbnbs, we run a short-term rental hospitality business, and to watch people come in and really enjoy the aspect of it that you put time and energy and money into, that really gets us fired up. It's the creative side of real estate. But one thing that I wanted to mention that I think that people should listen in to is you almost didn't know what you didn't know, and you didn't care. That's what I found about this story that I think is super cool. You're I'm gonna go wholesale. I'm gonna get the list. I'm gonna call these people. What's my strategy? Should I wait? Should I do 8 months of analysis paralysis? Should I get a cold calling team? And you're I'm gonna try this strategy. I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna try this one until I find out what one works. And that's really the name of the game. Is you just gotta fail forward. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I don't know if that's maybe your personality, the determination and drive with hoops or whatever it is, but I think that's really the key. I don't know if you have any thoughts behind that, or what was allowed you to just be no, I'm gonna call all these people, not scared, and maybe you were scared to do it, I don't know, but you did it anyway.
Right. The call, yeah, the call, even wholesaling. I remember this was the funny thing about wholesaling. It's once you get for me, once I got a little hint at what to do, I just go do it. And then I figure, I also I figure out, through reading, connecting with people. And then I also figure out through experience. And I remember I got a little hint of what to do with the wholesaling. I just started calling people, driving for dollars and calling that list. And I remember somebody called, I called someone in there and I was hey, I was calling about your property. I wanted to know if you're willing to consider an offer on it. And the guy was yeah, come by, check it out. So I go by, check it out. And I don't know too much about wholesaling right now. I just know let's say 10% of wholesaling. I toured a house with the guy. I'm thanking you. He goes, and then I just saw one formula online. And it was it was a basic formula on how you should make an offer to wholesaling. And the guy's yeah, what are you thinking? And I was I'd have to be around $420,000 for this property. And he's 480 is the lowest I'd go. And I was it's not going to work. And I just left. I call up another wholesaler and, we're just talking, I'm learning. And then I was yeah, this guy wanted me to sell his house for 480. It wasn't a deal, didn't pencil out. And he's send me the address. And I sent him the address and he goes, wait, you wanted to sell it up for 480? I said, yeah. I was crazy, right? He goes, wait, 480,000? I said, yeah. He goes, bro, get off the phone. We call that guy back up right now and lock that deal up. I have a buyer for you in the next 5 minutes. I was okay, go. And this is 3 weeks after. So I called the guy up. I was hey man, it's me, Terry. I kicked your house the other day. I was hey, 480, we can make it happen. And he laughs. He laughs at me. He goes, he goes, sold it on the market with a realtor last week, $550,000.
Damn. That'll get you. That'll get you. Yeah.
Right. That'll get you. So and he just hung up, and I remember I sat on the couch. I was look, I could do one or two things right now. I can be mad about this and never wholesale again, or I can know everything I need to know about wholesaling and try to replicate this deal and try to make it happen again. And then I was you know what, I'm going to go all in. And I'm but that little first fail though, gave me the okay, it can really work. You can really make money wholesaling with no money, So,
that yeah, it's that creative. The thing is that the experienced people in the game that you've probably connected yourself with know how to make the deals work. Like there's always a way to make a deal work. There's always a number that somebody else wants to do this with the property. Somebody could be like, oh, I want to knock that thing down and build a $2 million house. Who knows? Like you just never know what somebody else's plan was. The person who's selling it might have a mortgage. He might have chose 480 because he owed 480. And he's like, this is the number just because I want to get out of it clean. Like there's just so many avenues in real estate. I think that's what you've kind of created for yourself. So it's pretty cool. I want to talk about the development and like the raising the funds. I mean, was this something that you were able to do on your own to start, like by kind of playing real life Monopoly, or did you create relationships with other investors, other maybe dudes in the NBA who had capital that they didn't really know what to do with? Like, what was your strategy to try to? Because going from wholesaling and flipping to developing, to me, sounds like a huge jump. Like development's a whole nother animal, right? Like, what was the way that you were able to fund some of these projects?
Mm-hmm. So the first Joshua Tree developments, after I started doing the first 3, I actually found out the capital needed for these developments, for the single family developments, was very in line with the flips I was doing. So that was made it all the point to actually make that full transition into developing single family, then to rehab the single family. And I remember the land out there is fairly cheap, and I was wholesaling too. So as I wholesaled, one of my wholesalers is telling me every 5 deals you wholesale, keep one for yourself. So and the average wholesale deal I was making was around $9,000 at the time. So I was wholesaling land to investor A, investor B, investor C. And then I remember when one good land deal came to me, for instance, one of mine, I had water, power, 2.5 acres, and I was able to get it for $18,000. So I was in a position to buy that. And what I also like about developing is on flipping, you need those funds in 3 to 4 months. Developing, you can get those funds in over the course of 12 months. So I was able to buy the land, and then I was able to go and get an architect, get the engineering, get all the site testing that needed to be done, and then about in 6 months go do the planning, pay the city planning fees and whatnot, and $18,000, and probably another $30,000 for all the pre-development fees. So roughly, let's say $50,000 investment over the course of a year, and then I was able to go to a construction lenders and see how much I was able to get through construction financing. And one of the construction lenders I actually work with right now, they give you 60% loan to value. So what they'll end up doing is they'll appraise the land, appraise the drawings as if the home was built today. And one of them appraised the house that I was doing for $1 million. And they were able to give me a $600,000 construction budget to build a property. And depending on how much your GC quotes you for, my GC actually quoted me under that. So I was able to put interest payments inside that loan as well. And that led me to be able to build this property for $50,000. I was able to do one of those. I was able to buy another piece of land. And I remember I was still wholesaling actively. I had a group of people, 2 partners who wanted to come out and check out some of the deals. And I showed them one of the lots, and they're like, "Oh, it's not going to work." And then I told them, I was like, "Are you really sure this is a really good lot?" And they were asking me, "Well, what do you have it under contract for? How much are you trying to make?" And I at the time, I'm open about it. That's just the way I learned how to wholesale. I didn't want to be secretive. And I told them I had it under contract for $22,000, and I was looking to sell it to an investor for $45,000. And if they weren't going to buy it, I told them I was going to probably close on it. At the time, I probably wasn't, but I just said it anyway. And I remember they asked about my projects. I showed them my Airbnbs. I showed them my new construction. I showed them how I was doing it. I was showing them how I was utilizing construction financing. And they loved everything. They loved the whole Airbnb play with it. And they told me right there on the site, "How about this? We have the capital. We love what you're doing. How about we buy all your land at the price that you have it under contract for, and we make you an equal partner with us?" And for me, it was like, this is everything I'm asking for. I've been asking for. This is what I want to do. I want to be a full-time developer. and this is the right path for me to be a full-time developer. So I remember in that business partnership, although they said that day one, we're still partners today. We're still buying land and we're still working together. And it's been a great partnership, but it's just when I was able to show value, and in a way I was able to be in these deals and show them how much money out of pocket they needed. These guys were also building properties with cash. They're buying land, building homes for like 300, 400 grand. And when they were able to see that they can be in and out of property for $50,000 to $70,000, it was a no-brainer for them to bring in a partner and to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these instead of being able to do 1 or 2.
Got it. Because they were so liquid, you're saying.
Exactly.
So was the plan with all the development to build them and then rent them out on Airbnb, or do you have different plans for each of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say build them, rent them out. I like to buy and hold. So it's build them. We take 60% of LTV, and then I like to refinance after at 75% LTV. And then, I also I'm going to put all of them on the market at a price I feel comfortable selling them for. I don't like to build to sell. Construction financing is really high right now. And, we're not selling as fast as we were selling 18 months ago. So it's like, let's build, refinance. And, that can be a little patient with I can be patient with my construction budget and patient with selling as well.
Cool. It's awesome. So you were able to, is all of this property that you're doing all in the LA Joshua Tree area? Is that your main focus now? And do you foresee yourself continuing to grow your brand and your development projects in that area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we started off in Joshua Tree, and as I started to get a hold on Joshua Tree, maneuver through other planning departments, City of Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, and Landers, I felt I was ready to go into LA. So I started to acquire this year and late last year, 2 sites in Los Angeles, one 25 unit and one 42 unit apartment complexes. And I do hope to expand, but as a new developer and kind of fairly new real estate investor, I'm big on developing and investing in areas that I know the best, that I have access to all the time. Just as I start beginning to gain more resources, especially in other markets, then I can see myself investing in different markets. But as of now, I just want to stay in these 2 markets where I know hey, if I got to go out to the site in Joshua Tree, I can get in my car and get there in 1:30. Or if I need to go to my site in LA, I can get there in 15 minutes.
Cool. So, do you have a favorite deal that you've done so far? Maybe one that you want to, I know you broke down the numbers for your first deal. I'm really curious about the development aspect and how the numbers end up shaking out. Maybe if you could break down either a single family or a bigger deal, whatever it is, and what you're putting it in, what you think you're going to be able to get in rent. Just some details would be really cool to hear for people that outside that are listening, that maybe they want to get into development as well.
For sure. So, actually my first property, my first house, we're just finishing it up right now. We bought the land, the one I was $18,000, and I was able to wholesale that for myself. I spent around $30,000 in the pre-development. The construction financing was, I remember we had to bring about $15,000 to close on the construction loan. And this one was a gradual build. There's 2 different types of construction loans that you can get. You can get all the funds up front and then kind of pay for the fees, or you can pay of what you spend. So this one was a gradual buildup. All in were about $600 and about $25,000 for the build of the property. So add another $50,000 for the land and the pre-development. So about $675. And then I feel like I'm missing something off the fly. We end up adding a pool to the property for another 75 grand. So it's all in about 750 grand for this whole house. And it just got appraised last week for $1.2 million. So for 7.7, 7.5 to, 750 to 1.2 is in my opinion, it's a good margin. I don't know about it. Everybody's
I
numbers.
mean, it's definitely a good margin. That type of property that's, what in the area that you're in, if you're talking about Airbnb, you're saying that type of property can do $15,000 a month in revenue. Is that like a range? I've never equated the development. I actually don't even know if I've heard anybody that does development to short-term rentals, which I think is awesome. It's a great strategy, especially in an area that everyone wants to come visit.
For sure. Yeah. So the first one was a lot of mistakes in that house that I just did. And I think where I kind of messed up was the value engineering part. I added an absurd amount of glass in that property, and the price to build was more than I expected. But I'm okay with it because it's a unique product that hits the Airbnb market. And I expect it to do around 15 to 20,000 a month. I'm throughout property management companies I've been speaking with. We're projecting it to do around 100 grand, 180 grand, year one. So, and then as it gains reviews and everything, we obviously want it to do better year 2, year 3. New constructions, they do very well on Airbnb out there specifically. Houses with pools do very well because it just gets super hot out there, and it's a great amenity to have. Those are the numbers that we expect. And I kind of like utilize the BRRRR strategy, but with Airbnb instead of just renting it long term. So
Airbnb, I guess is what they call it, right?
Yeah. Or like blur, buy land, restricted, or whatever. But
okay, that's cool. Come on, dude.
I'd never heard that.
That's great. Do you? Let me ask you this. So, in terms of property management, you're not doing this in house, right? You're outsourcing. Can you talk to like how you found the person that's going to actually manage this? Because there's a difference between a long-term rental property manager versus a short-term. It's like it's a whole hospitality business, right? So it takes a lot of vetting. We know a couple of people out there, and Tony Robbins and his wife do it. Then Rob Abasolo, he's the host of the Bigger Pockets podcast. So he's more of a tiny homes guy. But those are the people I know out in Joshua Tree. I don't know if I assume you probably have some connections there, but how did you find the person that was going to, undertake this amazing deal that you put together and trust that they're going to be able to generate the 15 to 20 for you?
Mm-hmm. I kind of stay at, for anything, actually, management companies, contractors, and architects. Whoever I pick, I want to make sure that you're doing it at that scale, So it's like, if this is a luxury home that I expect to do 200 grand a year, do you have 200 grand a year Airbnbs in your portfolio? So like contractors, is this a luxury property that costs X amount of dollars? Do you have luxury homes that you have built? Architects, if this is the vision I encapsulate, have you created that vision before? So like, I try to use that kind of strategy when I'm going after, property management companies. And I spoke to many property management companies, and I think another, that was kind of the main indicating factor of what properties they were managing. And if you're managing high-end properties, you also know how to deal with the high-end guests that you have to deal with, and you have to know how to accommodate them the right way. It's a difference when you're managing properties for, just the everydayers or people who just need a space to lay their feet here and there, than you're managing for that high-end crowd. Yeah, so that's kind of how I picked my property management.
I think I love what's happening in the Airbnb space right now. I know that people are running from it, and that's why I think I love it, because I think everyone is seeing articles and they're reading things about this big plummet, and like, I'm telling you, I just onboarded an Airbnb in Tampa, and I did 100% occupancy in July and 100% in August, and I did not expect that. And I think it's because of the marketing, the systems, the management, and like, it's all honed in, and I can tell this property is a home run. I think everyone that I talk to, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that I talk to, like, I don't know if I want to get in the Airbnb space right now. I think it's the Airbnb bust. And I'm telling you, I don't think that's true at all. I'm curious what you're seeing. Have you talked to people that are thinking like, not a good time? And I also think that's like, be fearful when everyone is greedy type thing, because a lot of people were able to throw up their mom's shed on Airbnb in 2021 and make all this money, and they can't do that now because their photos suck,
Exactly. Yeah, I think like kind of what you said, it's about putting a good product on the market. So I know a lot of people coming out to Joshua Tree and, making something for Airbnb, but forgetting to put a water activity. It just gets so hot in the desert. Like, these are some things that are needed. You need either a hot tub or a cowboy tub or a pool to get X amount of dollars. You need a lot. Properties that do better are the ones with a lot of acreage. So you need that. So it's kind of also like understanding your market. What makes you successful in Las Vegas on Airbnb is not going to make you, or probably won't make you successful in Joshua Tree. And it's also like know what tier of Airbnb you're in. You know, I like to come in on the high end tier to get X amount of dollars. And I know that in my market too, people are building for Airbnb. So what does that mean? There more high-end Airbnbs are coming in, and when more for me, what I see is if Airbnb is the highest you can get in Joshua Tree is $1,000 a month for Airbnb, and more of those start coming in, they're going to take the $1,000 a month spot, and the ones that are lower are going to start getting less and less money. So I'd be a little fearful of getting a 1980s home, trying to put some furniture in it and make it an Airbnb. I would like to, when I'm coming in on the market, just because I know so many people are coming in on this market with either, rehabbing properties and making them luxury or building new houses and making it a luxury. I want to come in on that end rather than coming on the low end spectrum where you're basically getting pushed down every day.
Yep, totally. Before we wind down the show, Terry, I want to know what your future goals are with your business. Like if you were to project out 1 to 3 years, you've done a lot in the last 3 years. I mean, you mentioned like this whole thing happened when COVID started. We're talking about 3 years ago, right? So It's been, I'm sure, a whirlwind for you. And we were talking before the podcast. It's like you're getting on all these podcasts now. A couple of them helped you scale your following, and like believe me, there's more to come. You have an awesome story to tell, so that's great. But what does the next 1 to 3 look like for you? Like, do you have goals set out for what you want to accomplish?
I think the next 1 to 3 is to finish the multifamily deals that I have in Los Angeles. I'm super excited about those, and to have about 4 to 6 more, at least 4 to 6 more acquisitions. I think 4 to 6 more acquisitions in the next year is what I'm trying to aim for. I want to build 500 more doors, and I think it's attainable. And I also like, since I'm a young developer, I want to bring a sense of creativity in my builds. I want to bring a sense of community living in these builds as well, where guests have amenities and like things where they can take a sense of pride in the building. So I want the buildings to be like, whoa, look like that's a really nice building when somebody drives by it. But I would say 1 to 3 years, 500 units. To build 500 units would be my goal. Cool. You guys called me accountable. Said it here.
Yeah, we did, dude. I mean, hey, it's recorded now, dude. So you can't take it back.
Let's put it out now.
No, that's amazing, man. I want to talk a little bit more. Not really. It's one of my last questions, but more personal. So Corey and I always like to ask this towards the end of the show, but like just to get to know you a little bit and like forecasting why you do what you do. So main question is like, what do you want your legacy to be, and kind of what's your why for getting out of bed every day to do what you do? I mean, it's not an easy undertaking. I know you like to be creative, and you clearly have done this in a short amount of time, but you've really gotten after it. So for us, it's like, what's your underlying why? Like, why do you get out of bed to do what you do?
Man, that's a good question. I think I definitely want to leave a legacy. I want to create something special. And with real estate, I just feel like everything was kind of like, it just flowed naturally. When I was getting into it, and to see where I was able to get from 4.5 years ago to now, it just shows me like, that it's working, that I'm following this gut instinct to really pursue what I want to be able to pursue. I do have this dream of creating a city one day, of building a city one day. So like, that's kind of like, and I always had this kind of dream when I was younger. So like, now that I see like, okay, the real estate's kind of leading into that path. So it's like, I just want to keep building this thing up so I can like one day, have that future city. So if you project out the trajectory, I think you might be on your way. 4 years doing what you're doing, maybe you multiply that by another 4, you might have a city. So that's awesome, man. The last question for me, and I like to ask this question because it's kind of a reflection type thing. Hoops was your life for a long period of time. You made a great career for yourself. You're able to make some money. I mean, like, not that many people say they can make money. Not many people
go to Division I college, right? Play basketball. And then from there to make money playing basketball is a whole nother level. So the only reason I brought that up is because I know that was probably the biggest factor in your younger years. But if you were to go back to like your 17 or 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now about your basketball career, knowing what you know about your real estate investing journey and being an entrepreneur, like what advice would you give 18-year-old Terry? And we always like to say this, like not suggesting that he would listen because he might not, but what advice would you give him?
I would just say, hey man, it's all going to be worth it. Just keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing. I remember one of my coaches was telling me, like, because I used to always, like, there was times in the G League where, when guys would come down from the NBA team, you just don't play. And there was a time where I wasn't paying for a bit of a while, but I was still like in the gym getting extra work in all the time. And one of the coaches would be like, look, I know it's hard to see it now, but trust me, like it's all going to be worth it one day or another. I don't know how it's going to plan out, but it will. And I kind of stuck that with me. I stuck that with me just all the time, even till now. Like if I'm grinding super hard, you're not going to see the results right now, but I just know it inside, like it's going to be worth it. And then another thing, like with basketball, sometimes I tell myself today, it's like, if you kept playing, you could have made a max deal. And I calculate, all right, a max deal would have been like, best case scenario, what are they making now?
I think a max could be, 30 a year for, like,
okay.
Yeah, like that. Or is that a max? Yeah, like 30 a year. So however many years that is, 4 years, that's 120.
Exactly. So I gotta do that, to really be satisfied, to really know my decision was, all right, this is the right decision. Now I'm kidding.
Yeah. That'll be tough, man. But I think you're definitely on your way. And the cool thing about it is that I think that coach, I don't know who he was, but he wasn't just talking about basketball, man. Like the discipline and the work ethic that you built in the sport, it carried you into the sport of life and the sport of real estate investing. And that is really like what it is for us. Like we're sports guys. We grew up, we didn't do it, at the collegiate level even, but the fact, like the competitiveness, that drive, it carries over into every aspect, and it like makes you want to win. And like, I 100% know that's the reason why you were able to scale so quickly and be successful, is like, it's sports teach you everything. So, yeah, man, this is awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more? Maybe they want to follow your journey on social, or they want to network and connect.
For sure. I would say Instagram is the best way, at Terry Harris 15. Feel free to message me. That's probably the social media app that I'm on the most. So on it maybe a little too much, but right there, I try to display my projects on there as well. Throw a couple reels out there and some information. So that's probably the best way.
If you think you're spending too much time on it now, wait till you start teaching people how to do this, man. It'll be like, it'll be running 24/7.
Dude, I want to see you in a year, dude. I'm just telling you, like, it's good. The amount of stuff you're doing on the side is amazing, but when you start documenting it even more, dude, it just becomes this big thing. You talked about BP, you talked about Rich Summers. Like, it's going to be an onslaught, and I just want to mark today as the day. Just remember this conversation. You'll be like, holy shit, dude. Like, I cannot believe we did all that.
It's coming. It's coming. Appreciate you, Terry. Thanks so much for going on, man. This is awesome. It's cool to get to know you, and I hope we can stay in touch.
I appreciate you guys. This was amazing.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.